backdrop as we send it over to you in Milwaukee. Thanks for watching us here on the Hill. Leland, it's all yours.
Here we go. And we start with breaking news at 7 o'clock Eastern here in Milwaukee and in Delaware. Former President Trump will deliver his acceptance speech. And you think about how much has changed in the past 5 days. You think about how much has changed in perhaps the past 3 weeks. And Donald Trump will now culminate the best 3 weeks of his political career, bar none. His party and campaign continue to show a unique discipline that's been missing by Republicans for 10 years. Democrats, meantime, look at the Republican convention and see what their party once was. At his beach house in Rehoboth, where he landed late last night, you can see that in the bottom left-hand side of your screen, Team Biden right now is in bunker mode. There is no other way to describe it. So is the White House. They are playing defense on an hourly basis. We are getting tweets, emails, text messages from the White House and from Democratic sources within Team Biden saying he's not going to drop out. And of course, almost every hour there is another report that he will drop out quite soon. Of course, Joe Biden dropping out would reset a race Republicans feel awfully confident about. And with that, we welcome you to the fairest show on television. And just maybe Republicans should wait to pop the champagne. And I'll tell you why. Because yes, things right now, and they will tell you, are awesome for them. They keep getting better. New Emerson polling shows President Trump takes the stage tonight with an expanding and commanding lead in swing states, up 7 points in North Carolina and Arizona, 6 points in Georgia, 5 in Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. He is up 3 in Michigan. These are unheard of numbers for a Republican. And last night, his competitor, Joe Biden, came off Air Force One, visibly slowed by his COVID diagnosis. There are reports that Barack Obama has said it's time to pass the torch. Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the calls continue. One friend told me the walls are closing in. Joe Biden had planned to spend this week barnstorming the country. Unlike campaigns past, well, he was not going to take the convention week of the opposition off. Instead, he has now had to cancel events. It's a huge change. Let me let you in on a little secret. Every morning, journalists, pundits, politicians, their staffs, all wake up to 3 things. Mike Allen's AM note in Axios, Politico's playbook, and the Drudge Report. On the Thursday of the RNC, all of these websites led with stories about Joe Biden dropping out. Most notably, Biden's former boss, Barack Obama, has said privately that Biden should seriously consider whether to run again. Nancy Pelosi also confronted the president, saying he's dragging down Democrats. And powerful House Democrat Jamie Raskin said Biden should reconsider his campaign. And boy, you think about all of that and you compare it to the mood here in Milwaukee. And this is the crescendo night. There was that wild, electric moment on Monday where Donald Trump walked in 48 hours after suffering a gunshot wound to the ear. The final week of this unprecedented time in American history. This is the finale. This convention's candidate took a bullet to his ear. This image of his raised fist, as we've heard over and over again at the convention, will be in the history books. Tonight, the show goes on with a lineup that a reality show producer could only dream of. This is the closing argument from the Trump campaign. Hulk Hogan, Tucker Carlson, and Kid Rock. Kid Rock precedes the candidate himself, Donald Trump, taking the stage. We're hearing Donald Trump does not plan to mention Biden at all during his speech, a potential sign that even they believe Biden's name will not be on the ballot come November. One thing the former president knows better than any candidate in political history is the power of television. Those full powers will be on display tonight. We begin with Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, who is here on set with us. Governor, welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you. I guess you can welcome me into your house, as this is the Republican convention, not on the set. Look, I'll put this in terms we can both understand as sports fans, football fans, right?
Yes,
Isn't this a little bit like when Oklahoma, the Sooners, they beat Southern Utah by 50 points in August, and everybody's talking about a national championship?
We like our lead going into the fourth quarter, I'll tell you that.
This ain't the fourth quarter, though. This is the first quarter, right?
Well, we would rather be our side than their side right now.
No question.
No question about that. But I'm really interested to see how President Trump, I think the unity message, I'm so excited about J.D. Vance and the Trump. The tent is getting bigger and bigger as we're inviting the Hispanic community and African-American community. And our policies are the best policies for America: free markets, limited government, lower taxes, border security, getting inflation under control. Those are Republican policies, and I think the American people are seeing that now.
All right, so what's the contingency plan if it's not Joe Biden?
Well, let me just tell you this. They're between a rock and a hard spot right now, because if they switch out their candidate at this point, then for the next 3 or 4 elections, they're going to know that they were just lying to their constituents. The democratic process apparently doesn't work in the Democratic Party if they just can switch out somebody.
So that's the argument. I got it.
They got to play the long game, and they got to keep Biden on the ticket. If they switch him out, I mean, there's a lot of people that think that they kind of hosed the election against Bernie in favor of Hillary in 2016. And so if they do that again, I think they've got to ride the horse that they brought them to the dance here. And
so that's either Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. You made a good point, though, about unity and bringing a bigger tent, okay? You can do 2 things with unity. You can either, A, expand your tent, or you can double down on your base and just all look inward. I understand you're saying you're looking outward to the Latino community and especially to the black community. We've heard that. Here's the problem. I have yet to hear where Republicans are willing to talk about what they're going to compromise on governing when it comes to taxes. I haven't heard any compromise. I haven't heard any compromise about Social Security, and I haven't heard any discussion about compromising to get comprehensive immigration reform.
Listen, I mean, here's the deal. As a governor, I believe that we should have a strong border, 100%, but we should couple that with a make-sense immigration policy. So why aren't the governors in charge of workforce visas? Why do the feds do it? Doesn't it make sense for your companies to come to the governors and say, hey, we need this many agricultural workers or construction workers, or here's how many doctors we need that graduate from our universities, and let's make sure that if they're going to be paying taxes and part of the American dream and chasing the American dream, we believe in that. But we just have to have secure borders, right? So I think we can couple those together.
You know you're not going to get any kind of comprehensive immigration reform from the Democrats without a pathway to citizenship for certain things. Have you seen any indication here that there is a willingness to take the majority and the incredible sense of trust, I think the right way to say this, in Donald Trump, fine to say in J.D. Vance as well, and allow them to compromise that hasn't happened?
Listen, I think day one, you will see President Trump secure the southern border. Okay, he had it secure. We'll do that day one in office. Ronald Reagan also had a path to citizenship once the border security. But you can't have 16 million people come into the country. And so, again, I'm not even talking necessarily about the citizenship, but I do think that there's immigration reform and there's workforce and there's paying taxes. Other countries do that way better than we do. But the border comes first.
Okay, I hear you there. And look, you and I have talked about what the border has done to the state of Oklahoma, but I just want to keep on this quad box of signs at the RNC. Mass deportation now. How are you talking about building a Big Ten when the signs up there, I know you're looking at the computer, you're seeing what I'm saying. Trump will end the war in Ukraine. Goodbye, Brandon. This isn't, okay, this is not, Morning in America stuff from 1984 Ronald Reagan.
Listen, I don't know who put if somebody might be bringing in a sign that says mass deportation.
Oh, come on. Those are handed out by the
I'm not going to comment on that. Okay. I'm not waving some sign here.
Fair enough.
But you've got to admit that it's weird that we've got border security cutting razor wire as all the Republican governors, Governor Abbott's putting up razor wires and protecting our borders. It's already illegal to come into our country except in a port of entry. Why would you be letting people come in? The other side thinks they can flip them to citizens. Okay. They think they can flip them and all of a sudden get more voters. We know what they're doing.
I got it. Biden criticized lawmaker who refused to leave. This is an opinion piece. I thought it was really fascinating. I believe it was in USA Today. I could be wrong. Poor SOB. Biden once pitted an older politician reluctant to leave the stage. Biden is now clinging to power when it is obvious to all, except perhaps those related to him or dependent upon him for money and prestige, that he needs to step aside. Sorry, it was in Politico. I think it was a USA Today former reporter. Here's the question to you. How hopeful are Republicans that Joe Biden stays in this and that you guys don't have to run against somebody different?
Well, here's the deal. I think if everybody's honest, they want a Trump-Biden ticket, for sure. But the Democratic process he's gone through, it's going to be really odd to try to, who do you put up? Who do you flip up? And I think the Democratic Party is going to be very disappointed. They've been saying for the last 4 years, nothing to see here, everything's fine. And then we saw the debate. And the Republicans have been pointing out some obvious problems cognitively for a long time. And they've been ignoring those and then really lying to their constituents. And so I think that's the real problem that they have if they replace him at this point.
All right. Governor, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll see you in D.C. in our house rather than yours.
Love it.
All right, Governor, thank you very much. You don't see this very often, and it is playing out, not these pictures. But senators here in Milwaukee were playing journalists. They've been chasing after the Secret Service chief. They want an answer to a question, why the snipers didn't shoot first when they had Trump's would-be assassin in their sights. The folks back here are quite angry about that. We might have an answer for that when we come back. Welcome back to Milwaukee. Unless you have been to a convention, it is impossible to explain the level of security here. It is akin to a prison, except to keep people out rather than in. Multiple layers, searches, multiple checkpoints for credentials. And even still, spent a lot of time around the Secret Service. The detail around President Trump, noticeably larger. They're closer to him. There is a new level of seriousness. The eyes scan more, even the agents who are outside around here. That's because, obviously, of what happened on Saturday. And we still don't know why a 20-year-old from Western Pennsylvania tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Normally, the convention is full of a lot of fun and senators shaking hands. Well, senators chased the Secret Service head through the convention last night, asking questions about the Secret Service's ability to do their job. It's been 5 days. We still don't know why that young man tried to open fire, did open fire, and tried to assassinate Donald Trump. We also don't know why the snipers didn't shoot him. Chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, Representative Mark Green of Tennessee, is standing by. He's been investigating this. We start, however, with Brian Enton. We believe we have Brian Enton in Butler, Pennsylvania, investigating this. There is Brian. Brian, what are your sources telling you?
Leland, sources within the Secret Service tell us that the working theory right now is that the Secret Service sniper did not initially shoot the gunman because the thought was it was possibly a police officer, and that's why it took several seconds for the sniper to shoot the gunman. That's why the gunman was able to fire off some shots, we are told. We've got a source who has seen the planning document for the rally, the Secret Service planning document, and it was very clear, we are told, that the local police were supposed to be in charge of securing that building that the gunman got on top of. It's very clear. There was even a star there on the document, we're told, but that the local police were inside the building and not securing the roof, not up on top of the roof where the Secret Service thought they would be. So it makes sense that the sniper, initially, when he saw someone on the roof, may have thought that was a police officer. Meanwhile, Corey Camperotore's funeral is tomorrow. We're outside his visitation right now. We have learned that Billy Ray Cyrus, we just learned this, will be coming here to Pennsylvania to perform at the funeral. He will be performing Some Gave All and also Amazing Grace. So it will be an emotional day here tomorrow. Leland?
Yeah, and tributes almost every hour here at the RNC. And if I know anything about President Trump, I have not seen the speech, but if I know anything, I can imagine him talking not only about the events, but about Corey as well. Brian, thank you very much. Chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, Representative Mark Green from Tennessee with us. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Leland.
Pleasure. Thank you. Take me through if Brian's explanation makes sense, and then that points to multiple failures.
Absolutely. So if the Secret Service handed that off to those guys, I mean, you got to follow up and make sure that it's actually covered. Why wasn't there communication? It took 20 minutes. I mean, that's a radio call that should take 20 seconds.
20 minutes, you're saying, between the time that they recognized
saw him
with a gun and...
Exactly. So that's unacceptable. The Secret Service ultimately has the responsibility to protect the president. Why was that building handed off to local law enforcement? Did they do an evaluation on the competency or capabilities of the local law enforcement? Were they good enough to actually do that mission? That all falls on the Secret Service, and that's who we oversight from Homeland, and we're digging into those questions.
All right, Joy Reid, of all people, on MSNBC, almost giving rise to conspiracy theories about the shooting. We still don't know for sure whether Donald Trump was hit by a bullet, by glass fragments, whether he was hit by shrapnel. We don't have those details. We have no details from his doctor. This man is still a Secret Service protected and presidential candidate. We know almost nothing. At some point, Joy Reid and a lot of Republicans are on the same page here, maybe for different reasons. The problem with not getting real answers from the Secret Service is it breeds conspiracy.
Oh, absolutely.
So what is the possible explanation? When you say to the Secret Service, we need information, why would they withhold that from Congress?
Well, I would think they're trying to cover their, butts, maybe. I don't know why
In the military, they call that 6, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's covering their 6, right?
Okay.
Exactly. So, I honestly, we've asked these questions. And on the call yesterday, someone actually said, if you don't speak up and act in a transparent way, you're going to add to the conspiracy theories that are out there. That makes complete sense, and yet they still have not given us the details that we've been demanding. Now, we're prepared tomorrow with subpoenas from the committee. They're already written. We will launch them at 5:01 if we don't get what we asked for, which included those radio communications.
Interesting. That'll tell us an awful lot. Are we to believe that Republicans think at all that this was something akin to massive failures on many levels, or that this goes to something deeper within the Secret Service?
So the question of, was this incompetence or was it intentionality? And I would submit that it's way too early but you always have to consider it, right? But way too early to say that. Clearly the incompetence is obvious, and so intentionality is going to take a lot of work.
Eric Trump, I believe, Don Jr., among others, have all praised the agents themselves.
Absolutely.
And talked about this. How do we separate that out in this conversation?
You talk about the leadership that made the assessment on the ground, right? So someone made a leadership assessment, and this is what Chadle told me, that the 8 o'clock counter sniper team was going to cover the top of that building. Well, now maybe we learned that it was local law enforcement, but either way, someone made a decision from the assessment team on how to lay out that perimeter. That person is different from the agents who were on the ground doing what they were told, the missions that they were given, the rules of engagement that they were given. Those guys did a great job. The other big question is this whole notion of how a 5'5" individual can guard. I mean, they're supposed to shield the president. Who made the decision to put a 5'5" person shielding a 6'5" president? That makes no sense.
You're talking about one of the female agents who was seen,
exactly.
seen
so
up there.
There are a lot of questions about leadership decisions here. There are no one's upset with the Secret Service agents.
All right. You and I have talked many times about the divisions inside the Republican Party. You've tried to heal some of them. And I'll ask you the same question I asked Governor Stitt. You can take unity. You can do one of two things. Either you can come together and coalesce and get more hardened while you're unified, or you can use that to build a bigger tent. I keep hearing Republicans say, we're going to build a bigger tent. Donald Trump's going to be a softer, nicer guy tonight. Except he probably is not going to offer any points he's going to compromise on, is he?
Look, unity is not necessarily us agreeing all the time, but unity is let's not hating each other because we have a difference of opinion. I mean, that's the whole point of the Reagan O'Neill Club I do. We know we're going to have differences of opinion.
This is a club of Republican congressmen, Democratic congressmen. They get together, you have dinner at somebody's house,
that's
and chat.
Right. And it's relationship building, that's all. But that's where we got to start anyway to get the rhetoric dialed down in this country.
Look, President Biden had the opportunity on Sunday to lower the rhetoric. He told everybody else to. He didn't say anything he was going to do. Tonight is President Trump's opportunity. He's obviously had a big build-up for it. We're looking across the crowd, eagerly anticipating the President of the United States. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thanks,
always.
Leland.
We'll check in
always
with you on
good.
Monday
Yep,
with what you guys are hearing. Republicans spent 4 years telling us Joe Biden is too old and can't do the job. Well, guess what? If everything we're hearing is true about how much younger of a competitor they're getting, well, it may not be Kamala Harris, who Republicans are most worried about facing when we come back.
Being up here,
Welcome back to Milwaukee. where there is a buzz in the air for two reasons. Everybody's excited that they're going to see President Trump arrive in an hour just ahead of his speech. We'll have live coverage of that, obviously, throughout the night. With the speech, the place is rocking. Kid Rock is going to play. Now, that's what everybody's excited about. Let me tell you what everybody's talking about. And that is that every minute that goes by, the chances increase President Trump will not be facing Joe Biden come November. In fact, viewers at home may not even have heard the word Biden in the president's address. There's a chance Donald Trump's not even going to say Joe Biden's name. With us now, NewsNation contributor, former White House acting chief of staff Mick Mulvaney, former Biden surrogate Kevin Walling. Gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, Kevin, ask this a little differently. The news for Joe Biden, the walls keep closing in, right? You've got now reports that Barack Obama is saying time to reevaluate Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer. None of them will deny reports that they've said it's time. If Biden's not going to bow out, how does he turn this around?
Well, as we know, and Mick knows well, 100-plus days is an eternity in politics, right? We had many October and November surprises over the last couple of cycles. So this has been actually a great convention, speaking as a Democrat. The Republicans are fairly united from all factions of the party. We'll see if President Biden can do the same thing in just over a month in Chicago. But it's certainly a much higher problem coming out of that debate.
Yeah, much bigger problem. Okay, fair enough. Ilhan Omar, I can't tell you how shameful it feels to hear all these leaks about what Democratic leaders, meaning Jeffries, Pelosi, et cetera, are saying, and not have a single one of them out there confirming or denying. It's a lack of leadership, and it's making all Democrats look bad. Whatever this mess leads to will not undo the damage that's already been inflicted. May God help us all. Mick, both from the God perspective and from trying to coalesce the Republican Party, what advice do you have for the Democrats right now? It sounds like
we need all that we can get, Mick.
Keep doing what you're doing. Please, do what you do for the next, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. I think it's absolutely fabulous. I know, in all seriousness, look, we were there in 2016. We had a candidate that we were having difficulty rallying around. They're there now. All I can say is, look, the Democrats thought they were going to crush us in 2016 and when they came out of their convention, and they didn't. And we feel pretty good tonight. And you can't help but feel pretty good at night. I think we should feel pretty good tonight. But the election, the British Open started today. You and I are golfers. What's the one rule about golf tournaments? You can't win on the first day, but you can lose on the first day. So you try really hard not to screw things up tonight and move into the meat of the election, which starts after the Democrat campaign.
All right, Kevin, Democrats for a long time have been able to count on Republicans always screwing it up, right? And that's sort of been a rule. It's been a theme of this show. Never underestimate Republicans' ability to screw things up. The only hope that Democrats have is to unite the entire Democratic Party against Donald Trump. The kinder, gentler Donald Trump we've seen, and anyone can agree that this is a kinder, gentler Republican Party, is not giving you guys that opportunity. What do you have left if not to scare people about Donald Trump?
Well, it's a good question, Leland, and I'm excited to see what the former president sounds like today. It's been interesting to see him in visuals coming out when he's walked out. And Mick knows him very well. He looks like almost a changed man. He's emotional. He was very emotional. I saw especially when Governor Sanders was giving her address talking about the former White House press secretary. Listen, we win when it's a referendum on Donald Trump. Right now, we're the day of his speech, and we're talking about Joe Biden. That's difficult for Democrats. We saw record turnout in 2020, not necessarily because of Joe Biden, but because of Donald Trump. You either love him or hate him, and that's the motivator.
What does it mean to Democrats that Republicans here keep saying all we want to do is run against Joe Biden? They are hoping, they're sending flowers, they're sending cards, they may even send donations to keep Joe Biden in the race.
Well, to Mick's point, I caution them, right? This is the only guy who's ever beat Donald Trump, either as a Republican or Democrat, and he did it by nearly 8 million votes. There's a lot of power in an incumbent president. It's very difficult to stop an incumbent president oftentimes in elections. So I caution them. It's a big risk-reward in terms of replacing Biden at the top of the ticket.
I'm going to say this, and every time I say this, people think I'm an election denier, and I'm not. So please let me allow to explain this. I don't think that Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump beat Donald Trump.
Exactly right.
It was a referendum on him in 2020. If the Donald Trump you see tonight is not the type of candidate that beats himself, that's where I think you folks have got difficulty. If there's one silver lining, if it does end up being Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, it's that it does give the Democrats a unique ability now that President Trump has picked J.D. Vance as a vice president to go after Republicans again and again and again on the abortion issue. I think that's the one thing they have left. If you see a kinder, gentler Trump tonight, what's left? You can't do the economy, you can't do immigration, you can't do Trump, you do abortion.
You do abortion, and you also do that. J.D. Vance has doubled down on the populist thing. Real quick, we think about whether or not, and this is Mike Pompeo being introduced. Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, still a close confidant of Donald Trump, evidenced by the fact that he is speaking here on Thursday night.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. It's great to be with you. A special shout out to Kansas over there, my good friends from Kansas. You know, I had the incredible privilege to serve as President Trump's CIA director and Secretary of State. It was my greatest honor to work with him every single day to serve you, the American people. Now you all are paying attention, so you know what the Trump administration achieved, but it's worth going through a few of these accomplishments. Let's start with this. There were no new American wars. Our border, our southern border, closed. It may seem like a long time ago, but when we took office, there were people's heads being cut off at the beaches. We destroyed ISIS and its caliphate. And you know, here's another fun fact. We never lost our Secretary of Defense for 2 weeks either. You'll remember, for those 4 years, the evil of Vladimir Putin was held at bay. When we walked out, January of 2021, the Iranian regime was afraid, and the people of Israel were strong and secure, and we treated them like the friend and ally that they need to be. Everywhere we went, religious freedom was protected. We held 3 summits in North Korea, and North Korea was quieted. We'd begun an honorable exit from Afghanistan. And not a single Chinese spy balloon flew across the United States of America. 4 years. Had I been the Secretary of State and a Chinese spy balloon flew across our country, I would have been the former Secretary of State, and rightfully so. You know, under President Trump, the Chinese Communist Party, which to this day presents the greatest threat to our nation from outside of our country, we confronted it like never before. Look, ladies and gentlemen, in short, we put America first every single day. "42 months on, what has Joe Biden and Kamala Harris done? And their leftist handlers, what have they delivered to us for security and prosperity? Almost nothing. Let's start with this. You saw some of them last night. 13 new Gold Star families from Afghanistan. As an Army veteran, I want to speak to everybody who served in Afghanistan. I'm disgusted by the Biden administration's incompetent pullout from that country. To those of you who served there, know this. Know that your service was honorable, that you saved American lives, and that the Pompeos love and admire you for what you did for America. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. Every one of you has served in uniform, and the families of those, you deserve a president who will not check his watch while he is honoring our fallen brothers and sisters. It was indecent. And of course, it was that very weakness we saw in Afghanistan that prompted Putin's butchery in Ukraine. Last week, we saw what it meant. A children's hospital bombed, innocents killed. It did not have to be. And now, of course, a second war in Gaza. President Biden won't even talk about the fact that Americans are still being held there by the Iranian regime. Contrast that with what we did when Americans were wrongfully held. President Trump sent me to North Korea to bring home 3 American pastors. We brought them home. Along with dozens of other hostages, and we did so without paying one single penny to the terrorists. And what about Iran today? When Joe Biden eased up on President Trump's maximum pressure campaign, we gave money to the Ayatollah so he could cut more checks to the genocidal maniacs who conducted barbaric attacks in Israel. And now, of course, closer to home, a massive national security challenge. Our southern border is a welcome mat. It's a welcome mat for Islamist terrorists, drug dealers, Chinese spies, and violent criminals. Ladies and gentlemen, President Biden sold out our citizens and our security and our sovereignty, and we need to get it back, and I am confident that we will get it back. I had this incredible privilege to serve as your top diplomat. I saw how the world always looks to our nation as the unrivaled example of what a free society should look like. But unfortunately, President Biden struts the global stage. Maybe I should say he shuffles the global stage. He talks a big game about American values. But what's he done at home? What's he shown the world? What have he and his leftist base actually shown other nations? He's censored free speech here at home. He's put woke into the military that I and you so desperately love. We must reclaim it. He put it in our schools as well. He's weaponized the justice system against our political opponents. And even to this day, as we sit here today, he and Vice President Harris are providing appeasement to the pro-Hamas radicals on our streets here inside the United States. And even worse, today this administration treats illegals better than our own citizens. That is indecent. And the entire administration has failed to tell us the truth that we all know and is so dangerous to our nation. The truth that Joe Biden can't handle that 3 a.m. phone call. Indeed, he won't take a phone call after about 4 p.m. My call to you tonight is really straightforward. It's really simple. We can't trust the Biden administration, and that means we have work to do to uphold American values. It is up to those of us in the room tonight and those of you watching tonight. Donald Trump will every day, I saw it firsthand, he will put America first. So let's do what's right and what's important. Let's elect a president who isn't ashamed of our nation and will never apologize for our country. And when we do, we will put a strong America First leader back in the White House. We'll re-elect Donald J. Trump, and we will make America special, exceptional, and of course, great again. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our veterans and the United States of America. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
That was one of the craziest nights.
Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State with us, a Trump confidant. Back here on the set, the one and only Megyn Kelly, as Donald Trump will enter the arena in just a couple of minutes. Her thoughts when we come back. The arena, that expected to happen during this hour with Megyn Kelly here on the set. Welcome.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Great to see you
again. What do you make of the fact that Donald Trump keeps coming in? He came in on Monday, came in on Tuesday, came in on Wednesday. Now he's going to come in multiple times here tonight. This is the Donald Trump show, and it is sold out.
I mean, who could blame him? It's fun. It's uplifting. It's joyful. For the first time in my lifetime, I don't remember a Republican National Convention quite this joyful. Usually they're in the midst of turmoil. The media is telling everyone how hateful they are, what racist they are, how there's no people of color at their convention. I mean, these are the narratives that have typically been out there. And now they can't push any of that. These Republicans are overjoyed. Everything's going their way right now. And all the heat's on the Dem side, so I think why not come and enjoy himself?
Yeah, no, look, they're all having fun. I asked Kevin Stitt, among others, whether this is a little bit like celebrating a first quarter lead. And you think about, it's not going to get any worse for the Democrats. There's now every reporter in the world talking about Joe Biden leaving.
Yes.
How does it get any better for them or worse for the Dems?
I mean, none of the Oppo research has been unleashed yet on Kamala or Gavin or Big Gretch, if that's where we're going, and Biden's out. So that's going to be a whole new round of fun. I see your point, but I think the Republicans need and deserve this week. They can get back to work tomorrow. This ends tonight. In how many years now I've been coming to these things, since 2008 or before, I've never seen them have anything to celebrate.
Yeah, no.
It's usually an uphill slog.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Rush Limbaugh when McCain was the nominee, and he was like, "We will drag this old man across the finish line if it kills us." Now that's not exactly inspirational. So now flash forward to here we are, and what are we going to see tonight? We're going to see Kid Rock is going to perform. That's going to completely fire up this crowd. Hulk Hogan.
There is a possibility, we have heard, that Hulk Hogan might be wearing a very tight Donald Trump T-shirt. What he does with that T-shirt, we don't know. But
that's just fun, Leland, right? That's just fun.
It's fun. It's a show. You've covered Donald Trump for a long time. So have I. One thing that's been interesting, he very carefully curates his image, does he not?
Yeah.
Right? And Monday, Tuesday especially, also last night from his granddaughter, we've heard all of a sudden the image change, right? He's gone from the apprentice guy now to Mr. Grandfather, who calls his granddaughter and talks about his golf game, who cares about Gold Star families. Every surrogate now has a story about Donald Trump the softie. You don't lay that out unless there's a new Donald Trump to introduce on Thursday night. Who does this guy look like, you think?
Well, listen, did you see the ad that he just released on Twitter? It's like an animation.
Yep.
And like a sketch with pencil. And it shows Trump talking about what you do when people don't believe in you. And they tell you that you're wrong and you're ostracized. And it's a great message because it's so authentic to who he is. We've seen him receive all of that kind of pushback. And he's telling us his life lessons, how he got to be Donald Trump, how he got to be president, notwithstanding all of this. That's uplifting. That's something people can grab onto and feel, oh yeah, I feel the connection and it's real. It's like reading Art of the Deal. So I think that's going to be the pivot. But look, to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to last long because he is a fighter. The same thing that makes him send the mean tweets is what made him stand up after he'd just been shot in the head and say fight. And that fighter's still there. So when this whole press turns on him again, once they've gotten off the Biden story, because he presumably leaves, and they will turn on Trump. That'll be their favorite. He's going to fight. He's going to return to the guy we know him to be.
And to be fair, I think he's going to be fighting not against a wounded Joe Biden who the press is a little bit embarrassed about. And maybe this is not what Republicans understand they're up against. But he's going to be fighting against a new Democratic candidate, if Joe Biden drops out, that will be deified. This will be the first living saint in history.
Second, after Biden.
Okay.
If he drops.
Fair enough. Are Republicans, you think, here understanding the fight that's coming?
Yeah, and I think to a man and woman, they want Joe Biden to stay in, right? For the first time ever, we have the Trump faithful and the Biden faithful completely aligned on what is right for this race. Have you ever seen, Tucker Carlson agreeing with Joe Scarborough.
Right.
Joe Biden should be the nominee, right?
And I think if we watch, okay, Donald Trump is starting to dance on screen, so he's not far back. What's interesting now is that you actually have a lot of Republicans willing to say that on the record. Kevin Stitt, governor of Oklahoma, a strong Trump supporter. They're actually willing to talk about that and say we want Joe Biden to stand. And to be fair, Joe Biden could run out the clock.
Oh, I mean, most of the people I follow on Twitter who are Republicans are saying it's a coup. It's a coup. Newt Gingrich was just tweeting out, this is a coup. He was democratically nominated. What are they doing? They're seizing the mantle from him. And the truth is...
Here we go. Hold on. Here he is. We're going to take the pool feed.
He knows how to make an entrance.
Different walkout song.
It's a good one.
Who chased down the head of the Secret Service.
John Barrasso,
who chased down the head of the Secret Service, Mike Wallace style over...
It was amazing.
It was, although I think it's noteworthy, and you and I have been here for a lot of these, how much tighter the ring around Donald Trump is. You can't help it. Two layers of Secret Service agents, and then the barricades.
Ted Cruz, too, there.
Ted Cruz?
Such arch rivals just 8 years ago, and now Cruz is a true believer. I have to say, to your point earlier, have you ever seen Trump so smiley?
No. And I've never seen him sit for 2.5 hours and listen to other people talk about him. So much has been made about the one person we haven't seen all convention, Melania Trump. What do you make of that?
She's coming tonight. She's not going to speak. And, before I got here, I watched...
fair criticism, a fair question?
No, I think it's absurd. That's all CNN was talking about tonight. Melania's coming. She was invited to speak, but she won't. She won't speak. Of course, the implication is she doesn't like him. She's just doing this under protest. Well, if she doesn't like him, she had plenty of opportunity to divorce him, and she didn't do it. The mainstream media has been telling her for how many years now that he's a serial cheater, that he had unprotected sex with a porn star, and so on. I think their marriage is secure. I don't know what the terms of the marriage are, but I think the marriage itself is not going anywhere. And she's coming. She's not a political animal. She doesn't really want this. We've known that since he ran the first time. So I think her showing up here tonight is to say, I'm with him, don't second guess me. But she's not really a public figure, and unlike Jill Biden, she's never leaned into being this first lady who's everywhere trying to seize the mantle of power and without having been elected to do exactly that.
And not ever really been given the benefit of the doubt to begin with. She'll be here for her husband's speech later. Megan, if you were going to listen to Donald Trump and say to yourself, this is a changed guy, what would he have to say or do?
I think if he smiles a fair amount when he's up there, it will continue the theme we discussed and actually make him look a little different. I mean, I'd love to see Trump use his humor up here and ideally go off prompter a fair amount.
We hear he's not going to say Joe Biden's name.
Yeah, which is smart because it's not going to be Joe Biden from all appearances. I think really off prompter, Trump is gold. He's dangerous, but he's gold. And on prompter, he's a little more boring. I remember after he announced that he was running from that speech at Mar-a-Lago, I had tweeted out, and it was true, I fell asleep. Because they were trying to make him look so normy, they normified him right into boring, which is not Donald Trump. So I really hope they let him talk. Like, I hope he just seizes the mantle and is his full self. Because his full self, if you spend any private time with the man, is charming.
Oh, he's charming, he's hilarious, he's all these things. Who was boring was J.D. Vance last night. Maybe intentionally so.
Too long.
Do you think they picked J.D. Vance thinking they were running against Biden-Harris or running against the field?
I think they were thinking about Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin.
It's that simple.
And also legacy. You know, they wanted someone to whom to pass the baton, and someone who wouldn't tempt his critics to impeach him immediately or, God forbid, endanger him. You know, I think they have real worries on Team Trump that everyone's out to get him. And that if you get somebody like a Doug Burgum in there, you'll get impeached within 2 minutes because the establishment would prefer him, and they'll all work together to get rid of him.
Flip side in insurance is we're thinking about the arc of this race. If Joe Biden decides to get out, he has two choices. He says, I'm passing the torch, or three. I'm passing the torch to Kamala Harris. I'm passing the torch to the convention, or I'm resigning and Kamala Harris is going to become the president. So now Donald Trump is running against the first female president who would be an incumbent. Does any of that change what needs to happen here tonight?
I think option 3 is nearly impossible. I just don't think Joe Biden wants to leave having stepped down due to mental incompetence. I just don't see that happening. I think we can see by how hard he's holding on right now, just from resigning from the candidacy. He doesn't want to go. If he goes, it's completely under protest because they're threatening him. Like mob bosses, you go or you get it. Just today there was an article in Axios saying, you might not get a presidential library. And then you see bit by bit the humiliating stories come out, trying to take away his dignity. And look, it's fair game. He kept held on to this office longer than he should have. But so he'll go under threat and not willingly. So option 3 seems like an impossibility to me. I don't think, if you believe what Mark Halpern's reporting right now, and he's got some good Democratic sources, he's going to go and call for an open convention. And that makes sense to me because I don't see the Democrats going through all of these maneuvers only to wind up with a candidate who is arguably less popular than Joe Biden. According to latest polls, Trump beats her by 10. He beats him by less than that.
Yeah, and next best thing for Republicans to Joe Biden is an open convention, right? Because that's another month of Democrats fighting with each other and also not necessarily a unified party. Megan, we could talk all night. You know what it's like to come up to the top of the hour. So we're going to turn it over to Chris Cuomo in New York here in just a minute. It's been great having you. This has been an awful lot of fun. Thank you. And as we close here, and we'll be part of the special coverage here coming up over the next couple of hours, I think the one thing to watch for is how does Donald Trump reach out to the Democratic voters who are scared about Joe Biden? We hear he will. We hear this is a changed Donald Trump who wants to reintroduce himself to America. That starts now.
All right, everybody, I'm Chris Cuomo, and tonight is the big night. This is Donald Trump's night, his first speech since last weekend's assassination attempt. The big question will be answered before all of us tonight, somewhere around 10 p.m. Eastern. Did being shot in the head change Donald Trump? Did it change his approach? Did it change his pitch to you in his election to be the next president of the United States? He's going to officially accept the Republican nomination here at the last night of the convention. What will he say? Will we be surprised? I'm joined by Dan Abrams, Elizabeth